Let me tell you about four people, four different decades, four different financial realities, four completely different versions of what success was supposed to look like. And yet, underneath all of it, they ended up walking into the exact same trap. Not a similar trap, not a loosely connected mistake. The exact same financial pattern, simply redesigned for a different generation. Daniel is 71 years old, stable income. He worked hard his entire life. Long hours, consistent routines. In the 1980s, he bought a beautiful home in the suburbs, raised a family there, maintained the lawn every weekend, slowly renovated the kitchen, added a deck in the backyard. From the outside, Daniel looked successful for decades. The kind of man people respected quietly. He looked stable, responsible, established, and honestly, for a very long time, he believed he had done everything correctly. Then there is Melissa, 49 years old. Corporate career, good salary, nice SUV, overseas vacations every year, dinners out on weekends. She built the kind of life that photographs well, the kind of life that looks balanced and successful from the outside. If someone looked at her social media, they would probably assume she had everything under control financially. Then there is Ethan, 35. He grew up in a completely different world. Student debt, expensive housing markets, economic uncertainty. He worked hard too. But while previous generations built wealth through ownership, Ethan watched prices move faster than his income every single year. So he adapted. Weekend trips, restaurants, experiences. Small luxuries that made life feel rewarding, even when long-term financial goals kept moving further away. And finally, there is Ava, 22 years old. She understands investing already. She follows finance creators online. She knows what index funds are. She has a side hustle, a clean apartment aesthetic, a carefully curated online presence. She invests money every month and talks about financial freedom casually with friends her age. Four people. 4 decades, 4 different lifestyles, yet every one of them fell into the same financial trap. And by the end of this video, you will probably recognize which version you are living right now. Because this trap has almost nothing to do with intelligence. Most people trapped by it are actually pretty responsible. They budget, they plan, they think carefully before spending. That is why the trap works so well. It does not feel reckless from the inside. It feels normal, logical even. Here is what actually happens. Every generation grows up being taught what success is supposed to look like. Not directly. Nobody sits you down and explains it. You absorb it automatically through culture, advertising, movies, social media, family expectations, coworkers, and the people around you. Over time, your generation creates a shared image of arrival, a signal that says, "This person made it." And once people finally reach the income level where they can afford that signal, most of them buy it immediately. Not because they are greedy, not because they are careless, because it feels like the natural reward for hard work. That is what makes the trap dangerous. It feels responsible while it is happening. If this kind of financial psychology documentary interests you, subscribe, like the video, and activate the bell. It helps the channel more than you think, and it allows me to keep creating stories like this every week. Daniel grew up watching his parents rent apartments their entire lives. For his generation, owning a home represented stability, safety, respectability. It was the ultimate proof that your life was moving forward. So when Daniel got his first solid job and qualified for a large mortgage, he took it immediately. Of course he did. That was the dream. That was success. And honestly, during that era, buying property was a great financial decision. Housing prices climbed massively over the following decades. Today, Daniel's home is worth several times more than what he originally paid for it. On paper, he looks wealthy, but this is where things become more complicated. Daniel spent decades investing emotionally and financially into the appearance of stability while neglecting other forms of wealth building. The house slowly became the plan, instead of part of the plan. He upgraded the kitchen, expanded the patio, maintained the property constantly, protected the image of success year after year. But retirement investments grew too slowly. Pension expectations changed after corporate restructuring. Savings stayed smaller than they should have been. Today, most of Daniel's net worth exists inside one asset he emotionally cannot imagine leaving behind. Selling the house would mean leaving memories, routines, identity, familiarity. The trap was never the house itself. The trap was believing the house alone represented complete financial security. Melissa's generation walked into the same pattern differently. More subtle, more socially polished. Gen X entered adulthood during a period where career growth accelerated quickly for many professionals. Promotions arrived, salaries increased, lifestyle expectations rose alongside them. Melissa earned more money over time, and every increase naturally expanded her lifestyle. Better car, bigger home, better vacations, better schools for the kids, more subscriptions, more monthly expenses hidden behind completely reasonable decisions. Individually, every choice made sense. She could afford them. She worked hard for them. Society rewarded that behavior constantly. But this is where lifestyle inflation quietly takes control. The problem is not spending money. The problem is when every increase in income immediately creates a matching increase in expenses. Melissa never felt financially irresponsible. In fact, she felt successful. But despite earning significantly more than her parents ever did, the actual gap between income and spending barely changed over 2 decades. The numbers became larger. The financial freedom did not increase at the same speed. At 49, Melissa owns beautiful things. But privately, retirement calculations still create pressure, because much of her income went toward maintaining the lifestyle associated with success instead of building assets underneath it. Ethan inherited an entirely different economic reality. Millennials entered adulthood during rising housing costs, unstable job markets, and the aftermath of the financial crisis. Traditional milestones became harder to reach. Buying property felt increasingly distant for millions of people, so naturally, spending behavior shifted. When ownership feels unreachable, people start focusing more heavily on experiences, travel, restaurants, weekend escapes, concerts, lifestyle moments, and culture encouraged this constantly. Spend on experiences, not things. Live your life. Create memories. Enjoy the present. Every brand, advertisement, and social platform reinforced the same message repeatedly. Experiences became the new symbol of a well-lived life. Ethan spent years building incredible memories. And honestly, many of them were meaningful. But slowly, experiences stopped being occasional rewards and became substitutes for long-term financial progress. Every trip temporarily reduced the feeling of falling behind. Every new experience created momentum and excitement. Meanwhile, investing and ownership stayed delayed in the background. The trap for millennials was not experiences themselves. The trap was replacing asset building with constant lifestyle spending while convincing themselves it represented financial wisdom. The signal changed. The psychology underneath it stayed identical. Then there is Ava. Gen Z might be the most financially educated young generation in modern history. They understand investing earlier. They know financial terminology younger. They follow business creators, investing channels, and entrepreneurship content constantly. So at first glance, it looks like they completely escaped the mistakes of previous generations. But the trap evolved again. For Gen Z, success became visual. Online, performative. The apartment setup, the desk aesthetic, the clothes, the skincare routine, the coffee shops, the perfect morning routine, the technology, the carefully edited lifestyle projected online daily. Ava invests money every month and genuinely wants financial freedom. But she also spends heavily maintaining the appearance associated with financial success. And social media amplifies this pressure constantly because online visibility rewards appearance immediately. Previous generations performed success mainly for neighbors or coworkers. Gen Z performs it for thousands of people online every day. The pressure became continuous. The comparison became global. And the rewards became instant. Attention, validation, visibility. The trap for Gen Z is not ignorance. It is performance. Talking about wealth starts feeling psychologically similar to building wealth. Looking financially successful starts producing emotional rewards before actual financial independence exists. Ava is still ahead of many people her age financially, But the pressure surrounding her constantly encourages visible lifestyle upgrades faster than real financial foundations can grow underneath them. 4 people, 4 generations, one repeating financial pattern. So, what does escaping actually look like? Surprisingly, every generation that escaped the trap followed almost the exact same strategy. They separated the signal from the substance. They became willing to look less wealthy temporarily so they could become genuinely wealthy later. They delayed visible upgrades. They kept the older car longer, stayed in the smaller house longer, took fewer trips, ignored some of the pressure to constantly upgrade their image, and they invested the difference consistently into assets that compounded quietly over time. It sounds simple, but psychologically, it goes directly against human nature. Humans want visible progress. We want external proof that we are succeeding. We want to feel included. We want our hard work to look rewarded publicly. That is why even financially intelligent people fall into this trap constantly. Daniel could have diversified more aggressively instead of relying so heavily on one property. Melissa could have allowed income growth to outpace lifestyle growth. Ethan could have reduced the number of lifestyle experiences slightly and invested the difference automatically every month. Ava still has enormous time on her side if she chooses building over performance early enough. The formula itself is not complicated. Assets first, lifestyle second, not forever. Just until the assets begin generating enough stability that the lifestyle becomes sustainable naturally. That is the difference most financially secure people eventually figure out. Real wealth is often built quietly long before it becomes visible publicly. And that feels uncomfortable in a culture obsessed with displaying success constantly. None of these people are stupid. None of them are irresponsible. They simply followed the version of success their generation normalized. And without realizing it, they prioritized looking financially established over becoming financially secure. So here is the real question. Which version of the trap are you living right now? Is it the house holding most of your net worth? The lifestyle that expands with every raise? The experiences quietly replacing long-term investing? Or the online image that looks wealthy faster than reality can create it? Think about it honestly. Because the first step toward escaping any financial trap is finally recognizing it clearly while you are still inside it.